Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Million Dollar Island episode 5. That's right, I am back with the top 5 takes here for this episode. But before we get into it, please consider subscribing, please consider liking this video and commenting below with your own thoughts, because it does help us get recognized in the YouTube algorithm. Let's get into my first takeaway here for this episode. We start off kind of where we finished in the first episode, with Tess being alone back at camp. She's got to deal with the aftermath of the camp versus camp challenge that happened and losing everybody that was out there with her. Clearly, at this point, it's about 10 days, I believe, into the game. She's bonded very closely with these people. She's had to rely on them to survive out there. And I do think that these deep bonds get formed that it's very difficult for us as viewers to fully appreciate. And she's got to deal with that trauma. But that alone, if that isn't enough, she does also get other camps come over when they find out that there is still some food left, and they come and raid the camp before they even check in with her to see how she's doing. So maybe a little bit less humane, but everybody is fighting out there for the last bits of scrap to survive out there. And we're maybe seeing a little bit more cutthroatness, especially between the different camps out there with this approach being taken. But Tess does have a very important decision to make. Which camp will she go to? Because she can join one of the camps. I believe the only camp she couldn't join was the camp that Corey was in, because that is the camp that they went up against in the challenge. And she does end up going to top camp. Top camp really being on top because they've got Brett in that camp at this point, who is the second most powerful person in the game with so many bracelets. And I do think that we've slowly but surely, we're starting to get to know more and more people in top camp as well, which means that they're going to be a very, very strong camp heading forward into this game. Takeaway number 2, let's discuss Jonathan's second reign. Was it successful? Wasn't it successful? Let me know in the comment section below if you believe he had a good reign as the person with all the power. I do think that, this time around, like he said himself, he was a lot more confident in what he needed to do. He had a game plan going in there. Once again, like the first time, he has someone who I believe, foolishly volunteers to go out there and go into this challenge. In Sarah, she says that she would go down there and he can nominate her, so letting him off the hook with at least one of his nominations. I don't know why people are throwing themselves into challenges so early in the game. It does look like maybe in the future it's going to have an effect, because you may want to have more than one bracelet, but at this point I still think you need to be the person sitting in the back, not making too many waves, because you don't need to be going down there and creating a target on your back by having all these bracelets too early in the game, because potentially that's just going to put a bigger target on your back being thrown down there time after time, so people can take that bracelets away from you. I'd rather go out there and win 2 or 3 challenges than win 5 or 6 or 8 challenges to get to the end. That just seems like hard work to me personally. But he gets her down there. He also decides to obviously go after Brett, with the game plan being that he wants to target Brett. Parker automatically, who is Brett's right-hand person, is in danger, and he gets thrown down there, which I think was a very good and strategic move by Jonathan. And he does throw down the young buck in Titus to go down there. Titus has said that he wants to go up against Brett, and I do think this is where it sometimes comes into, you're a young guy, you're very capable, you want to go take on the older person who's in the game to show them, to peg them down a little bit, because he's been the king of the island. But again, like I said, I don't think it's very smart to say you want to go down there. So I don't know why Titus did this, and sadly he learned a very valuable life lesson, I think, by throwing himself down there in this episode. And then the other person who also gets thrown down there is going to be Doc, who we get to know a little bit here in this episode as someone who is a refugee from Africa, who's in the country, who's got a lot to fight for, obviously. And because he's so physically capable, Jonathan want to take out the physical threats. And then lastly but not least, the person he throws in there is Brock, who seemed the most confident that he would not go out there. In the beginning of the episode, he said that he had this bond with Jonathan, being the other gay man out there. They will look out for each other. But I think this just once again proves, just because you've got some similarities in the game doesn't mean, if I was out there and I was playing with someone that also came from Auckland, New Zealand, I wouldn't necessarily just keep them in the game because we're both from Auckland. And maybe I am oversimplifying it, but I do think that you do need to have valuable strategic conversations with each other. And I thought Jonathan did a pretty good thing. He could throw down anyone down there, but I'm sure Brock, he said he felt angry afterwards. He would have felt different because there would have been the code between them being out there, both being gay, that maybe they didn't want to throw each other down there, or he had that in his mind. But, Jonathan is an independent thinker, and he did throw him down there. And I don't think that Brock can really be too angry at him at this point if they never really discussed any strategy in the game. Listen to anyone that goes out there. Don't leave things up to chance. Go and talk to people, solidify some alliances out there so you can go deeper into the game. Takeaway number 3 is that the plan does fall apart. They do go to this challenge, which, we got the clue last week that it was going to be hang on for dear life or something like that. In this specific challenge, we see that they're going to be up on platforms holding a certain amount of weight above their heads, and that every time that ant is going to walk behind them, every person will get to nominate who they want to add. I believe it was 4 increments of 4 kilograms, who they want to add 4 kilograms of weight to. The way that this challenge was set up, I do have a few issues with it personally myself. I didn't like the setup with Titus being at the end, so everybody could pile up on him, and then he had one opportunity to choose one person he could throw it on without getting the second opportunity after that to throw another weight on someone. Like, I believe it should have been a snake formula that they would have used. So it started with Doc, goes through to Titus, and Titus gets the first decision or the first chance to throw weight on someone when they go into the second round. So I felt like Titus was really at a massive disadvantage in this game, the way it was set up, and they definitely could have made the order of this a little bit more fair, in my opinion. But, he really hung in there. He had a lot of weight on him. He got taken out. Probably not the best strategy by everybody if the real challenge there was to take Brett out of the game to ensure he doesn't keep power because he's this evil villain, maniac guy that's out there and they want to take him out. Then they severely failed and did not do what Jonathan kind of tried to set up going into this challenge with different camps working together. Titus was out there on his own. Why did they target him so heavily from the start? They could have definitely spread the love a little bit and thrown some to Brett. And even when Titus is gone, the plan was to go after Brett, according to Doc, but Doc gets involved in a bit of a personal back and forth with Parker and loses his focus and gets his tribe mates to start throwing plates on Parker instead of the person that they want to get out of the game, and Brett. So very confusing. It kind of felt like it fell all into Brett's lap. At the end, he only had one weight stacked for him to hold up, where Parker, did a very good job there right until the end, hung in there. But because he got ganged up on and the others sort of all fell one after the other, Brett does get a very easy win here in this case. But, at the end of the day, they say, you create your own luck out there, and definitely Brett has created that own luck for himself out there, and he is back on top in top camp, and he becomes the richest man in the game again. And I do think for the show, this is the best outcome because I'm loving Brett as a character. I'm a Brett stan. The longer he's in the game, the more entertaining it's going to be. People trying to take him out while he's got those real villainous ideas and how he wants to play the game. Probably the most exciting personality for me so far in this game. All right, so takeaway number 4, we do find out that the survival challenge this week is going to be an eating challenge. And I've got to say, if I was out there, this would be the one challenge I would dread more than anything else. I am a weak eater. I will try most things once, but I don't really like to go too exotic when it comes to my food. So I do know I would have struggled a bit being out there. Maybe if the competitive side of me came out, similar to Doc, I would have just sucked it up and I would have just gone through it and I would have eaten whatever. But, balut, which is a fertilized egg, is something that's been used quite a lot in the earlier seasons of Survivor. So very familiar with that. I think even on The Amazing Race, they may have had it once as an eating challenge as well. And they had to eat 2 of those eggs, followed by 2 worms, and then followed by some sort of a sea cucumber. I thought it was very interesting with Doc starting off that he wasn't going to do well. He almost wanted to quit, but then somehow finds it in himself to charge through this competition. And the only person really that stuck in there with him was Parker, as Doc comes back and wins his bracelets back. I thought it was very interesting to see Brett have that loyalty, obviously trying to get Parker to get that sea cucumber, trying to direct him from the beach as they were trying to get it. But it was all in vain at the end here. I don't know much about Doc yet, but I was happy for him. Being originally from Africa myself, I always shout for the people that are from Africa. So, automatically he does have my support for the rest of the game. And I do hope that he can somehow manage to stay out of the eliminations until the time comes for him to pounce moving forward in the game. All right, so The arena and nominations happen. Prior to that, the players here that all are in danger, they do get an opportunity to go and grovel for some potential of getting a bracelet and staying in the game. Both Brock and Sarah kind of gives up, knowing that no one in their camp really wants to give up their bracelet, and they don't want to go to other camps where they know two people may quit the game, because in their minds, it's not worth it going there when those players are most likely going to be giving it to someone in their camp. So that is fair in itself. So Titus is in the same tribe as both these players who are considering giving up their bracelets, in both Kara and also Susan. He does talk to both of them, but they give him no commitment, which probably meant, from that point onwards, I kind of thought they didn't have a chance, that he didn't have a chance of getting back in the game. And they both do end up not saving him in this spot and giving their bracelets away to the people that they had the realest and biggest bond with in the game. So it once again shows that, giving your bracelets away, quitting the game, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to give it to someone that's in trouble unless you have really built that connection. So my takeaway to people who play this game in the future is that you need to work extremely hard on your bonds in the game, because there's so many things that are out of your control. Like, for instance, the roulette that gives people power, that's out of your control. Potentially getting thrown into an elimination where people can gang up on you, or the format doesn't suit you down there and you thought you had the strengths to do well, that is out of your control. But the one thing that is in your control is the interconnections and personal relationships that you build in this game. And clearly Titus was lacking with these two players, because they didn't choose to save him when they could here in the end. In any case, that's my top 5 takes here for episode 5. It's nice and snappy and rapid here tonight. But, if you want to see more in-depth analysis of this season, we do have a live coming up. So go check out our channel, subscribe to it, hit the notification bell so you can be informed when Kahuna and Maki goes live for a probably hour plus to talk about this 2 episodes that have just happened. And I'm sure there's a lot that I've missed that they will go into in further detail. But for now, I do want to say see you next time, and bye.